All right, you guys. So, welcome to the live. So, in this video, or in this live rather, we're going to be talking about the things that you can do, or some things that you can do, so that way you could stop struggling with money. So, if you're new here to the channel, first off, I want to welcome you here to my channel. I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel. So, find that subscribe button down beneath the video, tap that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so that way you'll get notified each and every time I upload a video just like this one. And while you're at it, if you could just do me a huge favor, find that thumbs up button beneath the video, hit that thumbs up button. It'll really, really help out my channel a lot, help me get this live and this channel out to a wider audience. So with that being said and that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the content. So like I said, we're going to be covering some things that you can do so then that way you can make sure that you are no longer struggling with money so that way you can stop struggling with money. So let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, so one of the very first things that you're going to want to do in order so that way you can end up putting yourself in a situation so that way you will stop struggling with money, and you will just not have these like as much of a hard or difficult time managing your finances and finding yourself in a situation where you are continually struggling with money, is going to be that you're going to need to take a hard look at your financial situation. You're going to need to take a hard look at your actual like financial situation, like how much income do you have coming in and how much income do you have going out. So really what you're doing here is you're going to do like an analysis of your income and your expenses. And you could do this whatever on a weekly basis or you could do it on a monthly basis. But really when it's all said and done, what you're trying to do here is you want to look at the amount of money that you have coming in, and then what you are spending that money on, and then ultimately what your expenses are, for the week or for the month or biweekly or however you have it. But before you can, start to like make changes and improve your financial situation, you got to know your numbers. You got to know, what do I have? Like, what am I working with? So that's going to, come down to what is the amount of income that you are making and bringing home. Because what you gross, it doesn't matter because that's not what you're bringing home. That's not, what is actually on your check and what, the amount of money that hits your bank account. So it does not matter what your gross, it matters the amount of money that you actually net and bring home to your bank account. So in this step, what you want to do, you want to take a hard look at, your household income, whether that's you by yourself or you have a spouse, whatever. You want to look at the amount of income that you got that you are bringing in. Then you want to take a hard look at like what are all the things that you were spending your money on and what does it cost you, for you to live your life, on a monthly basis, weekly basis, whatever it is. What is it costing you? And then at this point, you're not making changes. You just want to get an understanding like, okay, this is what I make and this is what I'm spending right now. So now you become aware of your financial situation, because until you become like, actually self aware of what you're doing with what you have, then you have no clue what type of changes you can make because you don't even know what you have. So you can't make no changes until you become aware of this situation. So, like I said, in this step, the whole goal was to just become self aware about what you're earning. And then now you know what you're earning. You're like, okay, what am I spending out of this that I'm earning? And, how much do I got left? If I have anything left, all of that. You're just taking a hard look and, basically get to know your numbers. Then once we've done this hard look and we figured it out, then we're going to go ahead and look at like, well, what's the next step, or what's another thing that we can do now that we know what you're earning and what you're spending. So that's when we're going to start to like take a hard look at whatever the amount of income that we're earning and start saying, okay, like, I don't know, let's just take like a hypothetical scenario. Like, let's say, you earn $3,000 a month, like that's what you bring, and you're like, okay, so the next step for you, like let's just say, okay, scratch that, like let's say you make $5,000 a month, right? And you're like, all right, like that's my numbers, I did the hard check, I did the hard analysis, like I'm earning $5,000 a month, but I spend, whatever, half of that in a month on like my lifestyle. So you pay whatever it costs for you to live wherever you live, your food, whatever, lights, water, gas, all those things. Maybe you don't have a family and all this kind of stuff. Like this is just for a person. Maybe you rent a room somewhere or something like that. So after you pay all your things, you're like, okay, I spent half my income on my lifestyle. So ideally you should have half your income left. So that's the point of this, is like, so for this next step, what you want to do is you want to like look at how can you live on less than you're earning, because that's ultimately the goal. Like with this next step is like, once you know your numbers, you're like, okay, I know what I have, but what I want to get to in this step is like, now that I know what I'm earning and what I'm spending, ultimately the goal is to figure out how can I live my lifestyle on less than I'm earning. So if you're earning, say, $5,000 a month, like in this example, you don't want to live on $5,000 a month. You want to get it to a point where you are living on some number that is lower than that $5,000 a month. And I know that that's not exactly like an easy thing to do, because you might like, like in that first step, you might do a hard look at your financial numbers and you might be like, man, I'm making $5,000 a month, but I'm spending more than $5,000. I might be spending 5,500. I might be spending 6 grand. So you might have to make some real, adjustments to your spending in order to like get yourself in that situation. But in order to put yourself in a situation financially where you are not struggling with money anymore, then these are the type of things that you're going to have to do to get yourself, out from under, that struggle. So, like I said, you got to know your numbers. And then once you realize, like, okay, this is what I make, this is what I'm spending, then you need to figure out some different ways or some things that you can do to cut down those expenses, so that way you could be living on less than you earn, because that is ultimately the goal. And the reason why we're doing that is because regardless of the dollar amount that you were earning, like you might say, well, I just need to earn more money. Like that's why I can't live on, less than I earn, because I just need to make more. I don't make enough. And it's like, yeah, I could understand why you could say that. But at the same time, like just because you make more, it's not going to make you be able to save more if you're already like spending more than you should be with the amount of income that you're making. So if you can't find a way to manage and live below the amount of money that you are earning right now, just because you make more money does not mean that you are going to be able to live below that new amount that you make. So if you go from making $5,000 a month right now and you start making $6,000 a month, there's not going to be no guarantee that you're going to be able to say, okay, now because I'm making six, I could, live on 5,500. Like there's just no there's no guarantee that that's what you're going to do. Or when you go on to make 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, you're just going to end up, adjusting your spending to match the income that you're earning. So this is why it's so important, regardless of the amount of income that you're earning, that you find some way to live on less than you earn. And it's not very hard. You just find the areas that you notice that, hey, like these are not like necessarily needs, they're just things that I want. And then maybe you could replace those wants with a lesser expensive version of that thing, allowing you to be able to spend less and still get the type of thing that you want. And then ultimately, if you do that on a few different purchases, you will find out like you're cutting your cost, basically meaning you're cutting your expenses, allowing you to spend less, which means by default, you're being able to keep more. And then this is going to put you in a situation where you are going to be living on less than you earn. And this is ultimately the goal. And a really good way to do this is just look at your largest areas of expense. Like, that could be your rent, it could be your mortgage, it could be, like whatever is like your large expenses. It could be, your auto payment, it could be, your grocery spending. Those are going to be like most people's typical largest expenses. And if you just could look at those areas and say, like, how can I cut the cost in here? It's like, is it possible for me to refinance my mortgage? Is it possible for me to, switch who I'm carrying my auto loan with to get a cheaper rate so I can, lower down my, my monthly payment on my vehicle? Or can I just, can I get like a rate reduction with the finance company I'm currently with? Some type of, changes like this, so that ultimately you can cut your costs, cut your living expenses, so then that way you can live on less than you earn. And doing these type of things is going to allow you to get to the point where you are going to be living on less than you earn. Okay, so the next thing what you're going to want to do is that you are going to want to save up and build up an emergency fund, right? And now I know this is not exactly like the most, exciting topic and nobody really likes to hear about the emergency fund, but it is like massively and majorly important. And the reason being is because the reality is that large expenses are going to, they're going to pop up in your life and you are going to need that income and you are going to need that money in order to survive those financial hardships or, those financial roadblocks that pop up in your life. That's going to look like a large medical bill. It's going to look like some kind of, home improvement that needs to get made after something happens and you're like, great, my roof is messed up, I need to fix it. Or hey, this is going to be my transmission just blew out and like it's going to be a few $1,000s or whatever to fix it. And you don't want to be doing something like run to your credit card and swipe that card and then get yourself in consumer debt just to be able to deal with those financial situations when they pop up. So this is where again the emergency fund is like so crucial, because if you are like saving up while you are earning and you are doing good and you're living on less than you earn and you are saving up your emergency fund during those good times like that with when there's no financial roadblocks in the way, then when the financial roadblocks pop up, it's going to be so easy for you then to be like, okay, hey, I knew it was inevitable. These financial things were going to pop up. They're going to get in the way. They're going to try to set me back. But instead of getting, like kind of like veered off or thrown off track financially because of these financial roadblocks coming up, you're able to say, no, I'm good. Like, I'm just going to go over here, tap into my emergency fund, take this money that's going to, allow me to just kind of like smooth over these financial roadblocks, pay what you need to pay, get that car fixed, fix that roof, do whatever it is that you need to pay so that way you could get that problem resolved. And then now it was more like a speed bump. It was just like, hey, you just went over it, kept it moving. And it's like, it was no big deal. Like you just problem solved, keep on moving, stay financially on track. It never like throws you out of whack. And you're just able to continue down your financial path, continue making financial progress without, any real significant setback. And this is all going to be made possible because you saved up and built up an emergency fund. So, how do you go about saving and building up an emergency fund? Well, obviously, first and foremost, you're going to have some income, right? You're going to have some income. You're going to have some income. So, you got to be earning money some type of way. Then you're going to be having to live on less than you earn in order to create a surplus of money in order for you to save up some money, right? And then you're not going to save this money in like your checking account because it's inevitable you will spend it. You might not intend to spend it, but you will ultimately spend it. So then once you are earning some money, you are living on less than you earn, and then what you're going to do is you're going to open up some other type of savings account, whether it be at another bank or the same, bank or financial institution that you do your banking with, that you have your checking account with. You're going to open up some other, savings account or type of account, maybe a high yield savings account. And then you're going to say, okay, I'm going to just slowly deposit and transfer money over from your regular checking account over to that other bank account. And then it's not going to happen fast. It's not going to happen in 1 week or 1 month or 3 months or 6 months. It's going to take you some time, just depending on how aggressive you are with saving and setting up for this. My recommendation is just take your time, add to it slowly over time, and then ultimately you will build up your fully funded emergency fund. So, what should a fully funded emergency fund look like? My personal suggestion is that your fully funded emergency fund is going to look something along the lines. For most people, it's going to probably end up looking like somewhere between 3 to 6 months of your mandatory living expenses. So that's the total amount of money that it costs you on a monthly basis to live. So, like, let's say it costs you $5,000, a month to pay all of your expenses, assuming like you didn't work at all, you lost your job, and you're like, I need to pay all my bills, eat, utilities, everything, totally survive just fine without no income coming in whatsoever. It's going to cost you $5,000 a month. Well, then ideally, for you to have a fully funded emergency fund, you would want to have no less than 3 months worth of that income. So $15,000 saved up. And then I would say somewhere along the lines of 6 months of, your mandatory living expenses saved up. So like say in the case of the $5,000 a month, so 6 months of that was that 5, 10, 15, 25, 30, so 35,000. So you're going to be, or was that 5, 10, 15, 20? So yeah, 30,000. So you're looking at like, okay, three between 15 to 30,000, right? That's what you're going to want as your fully funded emergency fund. Now, there's some people that go on the extreme side and they're going to say, no, like I need 12 months. Like I need to know if things go bad, I'm financially protected for as much as up to 1 year. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. The more money that you're able to set aside and save up, you're going to put yourself in a really great financial situation, given whatever type of, really unforeseen, or even if it is like something that you expect or know that's coming up down the road, or it's a very like strong likelihood that could come up, like maybe you're in a really great like job, but you're like, this job's kind of shaky, but while I'm here I'm making great money, but I want to be prepared for when things go bad. Well, if you got a year's worth of income put up, then when that job goes, you're like, I'm good, like I got enough time to find that next really great job, and not be put in a situation where you're going to be forced to take something lesser because you don't have any income to support yourself. So, like I said, you want to, in this step right here, you want to save up and add to your emergency fund over time, slowly and consistently until you build up enough to have your fully funded emergency fund. For, like I said, for most people, it's going to be somewhere between 3 to 6 months of your mandatory living expenses. So you definitely want to do this so that way you will not be struggling with money anymore. Hey, if you guys have not already hit the like button on this, man, I just want to invite you guys to hit the like button on the live. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me get this video and this live and my channel out to a wider audience. So if you're here, hit the like button on your way in. And then, or if I understand everybody can't stay in the live, the whole time. The live could be kind of long. You got lives, you got things to do. But before you go, before you check out, just hit the like button. I'd really appreciate it. And if you're not already currently subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button before you get out of here. And I thank you and appreciate you for spending your time here. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into, some more of these things that you can do to make sure that you will no longer struggle with money. All right, so the next thing that you're going to want to do is that you are going to want to make sure that you are getting really smart and really aware of your debt situation. So this is like ultimately looking at, really there's only two types of debt. There's debt that costs you money, and then there's debt that makes you money. Now, am I trying to say that you have to live your life like absolutely debt free? No, like that's not what I'm saying whatsoever. But if you want to put yourself in a situation where you are like in a strong financial situation, the best thing you can do is keep your consumer debt. So your consumer debt is all debt that is not going to make you money, right? Like you got stuff like car payments and credit card debt and things like that. That's consumer debt. That debt isn't making you money. It costs you money. So if you want to be in a strong financial situation and you don't want to worry about money or be struggling with money anymore, you want to make sure that you are keeping that consumer debt either at a zero or a very small amount of your monthly spending, because it's just costing you money. It's not making you money. So ultimately, like it's hurting you. Now, if you're making decent money and you got a car payment and it's got a low interest rate, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to tell you like, hey man, you have to hurry up and pay that car off and all that type of stuff like that. I just don't really believe that. Like I don't live my life that way. And I wouldn't try to tell you guys, hey, in order for you to do good with your finances or get to the point where you're not struggling with your money anymore, you have to do that. You have to live a true zero debt lifestyle. You can't never, go out and get a car or have a car payment. Like that's not what I'm saying at all. And I know that that's not the case. So I would not tell you that you need to do it. But I would caution you and tell you that if you want to be in a strong financial situation, you want to keep that consumer spending where you have consumer debt attached to it. You want to keep that consumer debt very low in proportion to the amount of income that you're earning. So it should not be a very, you should never take on a large amount of consumer debt. That could be your mortgage, all of that, because at the end of the day, regardless of what people would tell you, a mortgage is not an investment, it is an expense that is ultimately a consumer debt. I know a lot of people want to tell you otherwise, but the truth is, a mortgage, a home, yes, it provides a great place for you and your family and all that for you to live in, but it costs you money. It doesn't make you money. Now, the other debt obviously is going to be debts that make you money. So that's stuff like investments, real estate properties, all of those kind of things, other things that you might maybe have borrowed some money on so then you can invest in. Okay, so that's obviously you took on some debt, but that debt is now allowing you to own assets that's going to make you money. So that's completely fine. But nevertheless, you don't want to take on too much because, the more debt you take on, the more risk you have. And you want to kind of minimize your risk, especially when it comes to getting into debt to take on risk. So you want to keep your consumer debt to a minimum if you want to put yourself in a situation where you don't be struggling with money any longer. So if possible, cut down your consumer debt as much as possible to put yourself in a strong financial situation. So that way you're not spending very much of your income trying to, just pay these consumer debt type things, these liabilities. And then because you've done that, you're now putting yourself in a situation where you are having more of your income left over to save and invest and ultimately get into assets. So then now you don't have money that you're paying out that's costing you money. You're able to keep money that you're either saving or the only time you're really probably spending it is when you're spending it on accumulating assets that are going to allow you to grow and build your wealth instead of, the other options, spending it on liabilities, spending it on, consumer type debt, which is making other people rich and building other people's wealth, instead of you. So you definitely want to just be aware of the amount of consumer debt or your debt in general. Don't take on too much debt if you're trying to borrow money so that way you can build wealth. But at the same time, even worse, and or what's more important rather, is that you really focus on the level and the amount of consumer debt that you are taking on, because the more that you do, the more that it hurts your ability to build wealth. All right, so the next thing that you're going to want to do in order to put yourself in a strong financial situation so that way you can stop struggling with money is that you're going to want to look at your ability to earn income. In other words, you want to try to look at like what are you currently doing, and is it possible for you to like reinvest into yourself in terms of like your skills or your abilities, so then that way you could become more viable, more valuable in the marketplace in terms of what you do or the career field that you're in. So then that way you can earn more ultimately, because the more money that you earn, then obviously you are earning a higher income. And if you are not like raising your spending, in according with the amount of income that you're earning, you put yourself in a really strong financial situation because you're able to create a large gap, between the amount of income that you earn and the amount of income that you're spending. So you all that large gap, that huge financial gap between what you earn and what you spend is going to allow you to have a lot more leftover income to be able to save and invest into assets and truly just accelerate your ability to, build wealth and ultimately reach financial freedom. Like that is what is like the biggest thing, because if you have a good income but you're spending everything you make, then it's like, well, there is no gap between what you earn and what you're able to save and invest. Now if you're able to keep that spending the same but you're able to increase your earnings, and then you're like, okay, well, I'm able to make a few more $1,000 a month now because I've increased my skill set. Well, now you're in a situation where you're like, hey, now there's a cushion, a financial cushion between what I earn and what I spend each and every single month. And that's going to be the thing that's going to put you in a financial situation where you're able to keep more money and then ultimately be able to save more money and invest more money into assets that are going to allow you to grow and build your wealth over time. And that's what you want. So what I want you to do is I want you to like, so that way you can put yourself in a situation where you're no longer struggling with money. You're going to have to look at like, what can you do to increase your ability to earn? Is that going to be taking a course? Is that going to be, you know, talking to your management at your company where you work at and like let them know like, hey, what do I need to learn so I can move to the next level? Like, what is this going to currently look like for you in your life? You know, every person's situation is going to be different, but what I'm ultimately getting at here is you need to take a hard look at your ability to earn income and then ask yourself like, hey, am I kind of like in a situation that is this is really like a dead end type job? I need to find something, you know, I need to go look into something where I can increase my skill set so I can actually get like, you know, a reasonable paying job, or, you know, something that has a real opportunity for growth, things like that, or maybe get into a type of, you know, get into some type of employment where your ability to earn doesn't have a cap on it. I mean, those tend to be like, you know, some jobs or some career fields that have really great abilities to earn. Like we could say that, like, let's say, for example, like a real estate agent, right? Well, there is no cap on what a real estate agent can, you know, earn. Like the more properties that they're able to sell and list and, you know, get those properties closed, then they're able to just continue to make more and more and more. And then when they're able to sell higher dollar value real estate and they close those deals, they're making more and more money. It's not based on like, hey, well, I just have to work more and more, or I can only earn up to a certain amount and then I'm capped out, or I can only work this amount of hours in a day. Like it's not based on that. It's just all based on the results that they're able to generate and produce, right? So if a real estate agent sells, you know, a house that's $100 million and they make a commission on that, I mean, look at the amount of money that they're going to make, right? It might take them a minute to sell that property, but look at what they're going to walk away from. And that has to do with their skill set, their abilities, their connections, their network, all of that, right? So and that's going to be far more efficient, far more effective, and ultimately like far more productive than say someone who's working 80 hours a week at some job that is like they're working so hard and dedicating so much to it, but they're never going to get like with that real estate agent. You know, they can never work enough to generate the type of income that that real estate agent is going to get for selling one property. So this is what I mean. You want to try to get yourself into a field where you have the ability to like make an income that's not based on hitting a cap, that there's not like, oh, I can just, you know, I'm limited at earning this much. Because like I said, those type of fields tend to be, you know, fields where you can make a lot of money. And you really want to do this where you are getting paid based on the results that you're able to produce, not on the amount of time that you put in or invest into that, you know, that career field. And then if you are currently not able to, you know, like get into, like, in other words, you're not able to maybe grow in the company, or you don't really want to like get into another career field or change jobs or anything like that, then the next best suggestion that I would give you guys is that you would look for an additional way to earn income, you know, on the side. So that's like a side hustle or some type of side gig that does not require much of your time. So if there's things that you can do that you could start on the side, I mean, that could look like things like starting a YouTube channel. That could be things like, you know, like the side hustle that I do is, you know, I rent my car out on Turo, not my personal car, but I have a car that I rent out on Turo, the car sharing platform. It doesn't require like next to any of my time. I just, you know, bought the car, placed the car out on that, you know, on the platform, took the pictures, created the advertisement, and then people, you know, they book the car for car rentals, and then I make the income. Like, but it doesn't take very much of my time. I mean, sometimes people book the car, and you know, they might leave it a little dirty or whatever. I vacuum it out, clean it up, put the, you know, lock it up, park it in the front, and wait till the next person books it. But it's like the car makes the money. I'm not making the money. You know, the pictures are out there advertising the car. The people need it. They rent it. They book it. They enjoy it. It serves them, you know, the use that they need it for, and then they bring it back, and I get paid. Like I'm not getting paid for my time. I'm getting paid for being able to give someone else something that is beneficial for, you know, the use that they need, so I'm able to provide some type of value for them, and then I get compensated for that. I get paid for that, right? So I don't want to create some type of side hustle that's going to be, you know, that's going to require a lot of my time. So that's why I really like, you know, getting involved with income sources that don't require much of my time, because I already have a full-time job. I have, you know, a large size family, and it takes a lot of my time. So this is why I'm saying, like, for you guys, what you want to do is you want to look at, first and foremost, like, how can you increase the value, that you're able to provide in the marketplace based on what you know how to do currently right now. How can you kind of like level up to the next level of that, and keep going and really push yourself to a situation where you are now able to get compensated a lot more than you currently are. And then if that is not really like an option, that might, require you to have to change fields or change companies or something like that, or really look like at a different way of earning, because obviously where you're at, that's just simply not, it's not working for you. So you need to look at doing something else. Then hey, that just might be what you have to do. Or if you really like doing what you're doing and you're not wanting to make a change, then the next option would be looking at, in order for you to generate more income, you're going to need to look at some type of side hustle. And so that way you're not dedicating tons of time to making extra money. Then you need to try to find something that has a lot of leverage in it and that you're able to, make a fair decent amount of money that is not going to require much of your time. So I would just, do a Google search or even look here on YouTube. I know that there's a bunch of content creators that make content specifically around side hustles and it may, additional streams of income and stuff like that. And there you go. I mean, you'll find one that works for you. Start that thing. It might take a minute to get going, but once you build some momentum and you understand how that side hustle works, I'm sure you could get it to a point where you will make, a fairly decent amount of additional income. And then as you are making more, it's going to put you again in a strong financial situation where you're able to save more and keep more. And then again, that's going to allow you to have more income to be able to invest into assets that are ultimately going to allow you to build your wealth even faster and then ultimately reach financial freedom even sooner. So, hey, I hope that you guys found all of these tips that I'm sharing with you guys here that are going to help you no longer struggle with money anymore. And if you guys made it to this point in the live, drop your guys' comments down in the comment section below. Thank you guys for spending your time here with me. And if you guys would like to watch another video from me, once I post this live back as the replay, a video will pop up. Be sure to click that video, check out that other video. And if you have not hit the like button, hit the like button, subscribe if you enjoy content like this, so that way you could get notified each and every time I upload a live or a video just like this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.